Chris, we're back.
Hey, Tim, it's good to be back. With episode
Hey,
19, we're almost to 20. It's hard
yeah,
to believe.
yeah, we're gonna quickly get to 20 this week. We're gonna record one more tomorrow so we can hit the 20 milestone. Julianne will be happy with us.
Awesome.
And it's been, I've been a little absentee, and we just had some big news today on closing of financing at Tangibly. So that's been awesome, and just like to say thanks to you and our guest hosts for the last couple episodes. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, we've had fun without you, or even without you, but had some,
Exactly.
some great guest hosts and really good, compelling topics. So it's keep
It's a
moving
great
forward.
reminder that you're completely replaceable. It's like, yeah, Tim's gone. Who cares? Let's keep going. I love it. All right. So today we're going to be talking, eventually about trade secrets, but we're going to be actually talking about copyrights to get started. So we're going to be talking about the biggest news in intellectual property in the past, couple weeks. And that is this Anthropic case. So Anthropic is the AI company that produces the product Claude, and it's become a behemoth very, very quickly. One of the fastest growing startups in history. So they're doing about a $5 billion run rate as we speak. And they just closed a financing that was 13 billion, at 180 some
Yeah,
billion
183
valuation.
billion valuation, which is amazing.
183, a lot of happy investors. Um, and so let's talk about Andrea Bartz and her other plaintiffs in this case. So let's start with her. Who was she? And then let's get into the guts of the case.
Yeah, so Andrea is a book author, apparently a quite successful one, and
Five
it,
books,
it's five more than I've written.
five more
Uh,
than I've written. Yep,
and
me too.
she and her class said that the scraping that was done by the AI system of all of their book contents was copyright violation, copyright infringement. And it really led to a pretty compelling and interesting case of balancing the needs of two groups. So on the one hand, you have all of the authors who spent a lot of time and effort to produce interesting books. And then on the other side, you have the large language model industry that, by definition, has to go out and collect massive amounts of data. And they're saying that they need to do this to have a viable industry. But the copyright holders are saying, you can use my content, but you have to pay me for it. Just like if someone were to make a physical copy of a book. So it led to a lot of interesting back and forth, and ultimately this massive $1.5 billion settlement, which is the high watermark by a long shot for
Yep.
copyright infringement, was approved by the judge just days ago. So
Yeah,
it's been kind of a wild ride.
and so Anthropic as well as OpenAI is in a lawsuit right now with New York Times. And there's probably others. And the LLM folks argue this is just fair use, right?
Mhm.
This information's out there, and I can go read it and learn from it, right? And I can, produce a commercial product based on what I learned from that thing. And so basically, what this Anthropic settlement is kind of saying, is it not, is that, well, fair use be damned, like you got to pay for it.
Well, and it's not like they were copying one sentence or one paragraph or just summarizing what the book had to say or what the story was. They were copying the entire book. And it's certainly for commercial purposes. Like it wasn't, for the other types of fair use, like parody. So the book authors were saying, look, this is very blatant copying for commercial purpose, and you're copying my entire catalog of books. So
Right.
that was really the back and forth argument. And OpenAI is having the same issue with news content from New York Times of saying, basically it's the exact same story, just news content instead of physical books.
Um, so, so I know we've probably talked about this once or twice already, but what the so if I want to go learn something from this book, I buy the book, right? I read it,
Right.
I comprehend some of it, it gets wired into my brain, and there you go. But I paid for the book, right? Um, if I want to go, use some of the learnings from that book, I can do that. I can't plagiarize the book though, right? I can't just go
Correct.
or say, "Oh, here's a new paragraph," and I just thought of that and wrote it. It's like, yeah, no, you didn't. You plagiarized it. So, how does that sort of factor in here? Just help me understand that a minute. So is that the right analogy? It's like, look, if I want to go learn from the book, I got to pay for the book. Is that effectively
That's
what?
effectively it. You're in a way you're getting a license to consume the book for your own purpose
Right.
as a normal person consumer. So, and it's really to reward creative people. So, yeah, you could imagine that if anyone could copy the book for free,
Yeah,
why would people write new books? Because they're not being compensated for their time and effort.
right.
Um, and that's kind of an IP argument across all forms of IP. You could say the same thing about trademark law, patent law, trade secret law, you name it.
Right.
You have to reward people for creating new things, you know, books or trademarks or new technologies. And when someone copies it without permission, the person who created it should have some avenue for getting compensated from
Right.
the person who copied it incorrectly. So that
So
that
did
fundamental principle actually applies here just as well.
did OpenAI's lawyers just have a couple all-nighters figuring out a new strategy in that New York Times litigation, or what?
Yeah, I think so because this is a unique situation. Before large language models came onto the scene, a few years ago, there was never a situation where someone would go and like physically photocopy millions of books. Like it just never happened before. But now with the advances in technology, all of the large language models are doing the high tech version of doing an
Yeah.
all nighter at the photocopy machine, copying you know, the entire library of books. So it's the interesting thing with technology is it actually forces intellectual property laws to grow and expand and evolve
Yeah.
because you come up with these situations that never in a million years would have happened otherwise without the technology.
Well, that's a super interesting point, and one you and I have talked about, and we've written some stuff about AI's impact on trade secrets and patents for that matter. And I guess what I would say is, you know, the the standard there is, well, AI can't be an author on a patent, um, and
And can't
AI
be a
can
creator
be
of a copyright either. So, yeah,
correct,
AI,
it
not an inventor, not an artist.
it could be um, the inventor of a trade secret, right? Um, yeah,
Yeah, so trade secrets are different because they don't require a human creator.
right,
So there's
exactly.
no such thing as an inventor of a trade secret, but like I I know
Fine,
I'm
okay.
being difficult, but
Yes, you're being a lawyer.
the
It's
whole
fine.
idea of a trade secret being created by an AI is perfectly fine because
Right.
there's no requirement for a human in the mix,
So we'll just call it
unlike
the
patent and copyright.
we won't call it the trade secret inventor. We'll call it the trade secret author,
Creator,
creator. There you go.
author, creator. Creator is a good word.
There we go. Okay. Anyway, that was a little tangent.
Mm.
Um, my point was, it's kind of interesting that it looks like the first place where, at least if you believe this settlement is indicative of what's going to come, is like the copyright world has really made the first big step in, in kind of bringing a little bit more clarity in terms around, what the future is going to look like with AI and copyright. Yeah.
That's right, and these litigations are probably the start. Like, there will be more, and,
Right.
yeah, ultimately, it becomes a cost of doing business for these
Yeah.
large language models. And, like, for me, when all this news came out, at first, I reacted like most people of, "Wow,
Yeah.
this is a lot of money."
It's real money.
To you
Yep.
and me, 1.5 billion, substantial.
Yep.
But if you look at it in terms of a tax or a royalty or a fee to get
Yep.
access to all this content to create and grow their business, it's actually not that bad. Like,
Yeah.
it's a small royalty or a small tax on growing their business.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into that. So 1.5 billion, and their current valuations 1 point, or 100
183.
times, right? 180 billion, um, more than that, but yeah. So, but this isn't going to be the only tax, right?
Sure.
So they're basically saying, look, this was cost of doing business, cost of building, right? Because this
Mhm.
is, in some ways, this was a one-time cost, right? This
Correct.
isn't this
Correct.
isn't a royalty in the sense that, well,
Mhm.
every year we got to pay these book authors. No, it's
That's right.
like we bought the book once,
Mhm.
we did our thing, fine. But that's not. This isn't kind of the end of the line, right? These books aren't the only thing they were scraping. They were scraping pretty much everything. So there's a lot of other, copyrighted stuff that was most likely, um, uh, you know copied during their early days, right? So anything creative, songs and whatever else.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. And, before this call, we were getting ready and talking about music lyrics. And that's a whole nother huge category that likely was scraped as well,
right. We've got yeah. Well,
which,
we'll save the details of that for another podcast. But so if you say, there's a bill, so where's this 1.5 billion? Let's say the check sh- clears tomorrow. Who's getting the 1.5 billion?
so it gets distributed to the authors of the book. So the idea is that each, sorry about that.
Don't worry,
Uh, each,
we have a lot of dog lovers in our audience, Chris.
we do.
It's
So
okay.
yeah,
Somebody's at the
the
front
money
door.
will get distributed to the authors, and it's a fixed amount. I think it's around $3,000 USD, uh, which for some books is small. Like, if you had a huge New York Times bestseller,
Right,
the $3,000 is pretty small. But like, if I wrote a book that sold two copies to my friends or relatives, that's a windfall. Like,
right.
that's fantastic. Uh, so it's really meant to be distributed to members of the class.
Yeah, yeah. So we're just sort of looking through, who all was supporting, or part of this
Mhm.
class action. Yeah, um, get stuff like, the Authors Guild, Association of American Publishers, the Society of Authors. So, and how many people, in total did you say
It's like
the
500,000
half million people, authors?
authors,
Yeah, something okay.
something like that.
Um,
It's a huge group.
well, it's interesting. So yeah, like, but even if you said, okay, well, let's be, um, conservative, uh, and say, well, they probably owe 10 times that much, right? If, like, people are now coming out of the woodwork as we speak, right? Going like, whoa, okay, I can go get some money. So 1.5 billion, let's say it's probably 10 billion that I'm just making stuff
Mhm.
up, but $10 billion they owe creators, in order to build these models. Yeah, it's still, a 1% of their, value, right? Or less, 5%, you know, um, or half a
Yeah,
percent. But
well, it's an amount. the company can handle. Like it won't
Yeah,
kill the company. Like you don't want to be in a situation where your royalties are so high that it
yeah.
kills your business model. But
But I
that's
think
not a
the
problem
really
here.
cool I think the cool thing about the settlement in many ways is that, yeah, when you just do the simple math, and let's
Mhm,
just agree that, Anthropic is really truly worth $183 billion right now. Um, these numbers, like, good for them for settling,
mhm.
right? Good for the creatives to, get some money and sort of put it to rest. And good news is, for these creators that are going to get, say, just 3,000 bucks, whatever, how many other AI companies now owe them that 3,000 bucks? They've set a precedent, and it's probably a dozen companies at least, right?
Yeah, and I think most authors, and I'm just speculating here, would be happy to receive $3,000 per book. Like
For sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
them obviously won't be happy, but for a
yeah.
lot of them, this is a good result, and it
Totally.
it provides certainty, which is
Yeah,
always nice.
yeah, yeah. And I hadn't really sort of thought through it in that sense, but yeah, it makes. I think it's a really good outcome for both sides and for the industry kind of as a whole. Um, yeah.
Well, it
So
also makes sense. Like it's kind of consistent with the philosophy of intellectual property. So, like, I'm actually okay with this result to say, the large language models scraped all this information and they paid an agreed amount,
yep,
and the business continued and the creatives continued to write new books. So it
yeah,
kind of fits with the overall framework of IP law.
awesome. Um, so if the copyrighted material is worth 1% of the value of Anthropic, let's just say, um, eh, what are their trade secrets worth?
A lot more. Well, and to me, all this copyrighted material was an input. It's sort of like, building a factory, you need to buy a lot of cement and metal and, you
Yeah.
know, ceiling tiles, whatever. But, it's a cost of getting your business up and running, getting your factory set up.
Yep.
And then you create the real value, which is trade secrets. So to me, this is just, fuel or food to get the company up and running.
Right. And we're now starting to see trade secret cases, amongst these LLM sort of players, and we'll have a lot more to talk about, uh, uh, without a doubt, over the coming 6
Definitely.
months to 5 years probably. Um, and that's because a lot of what's being done in terms of building these models is indeed trade secret, right? I mean, that is, I'd say, in many ways, it is the core IP of these companies.
Well, it is. And these companies come up with great new technology and great tools, and they have to make a decision of how to best protect it using intellectual property. And for the most of these companies, they're looking at trade secrets as being the best choice for for their new technologies. I mean, they obviously have trademarks and their
Yep.
own copyright issues, but
Yep.
you know, patents are largely not being selected as plan A, and trade secrets are plan A now.
That's a it's a brave new world. No longer
It
plan
is.
B. Didn't you
It.
say that at some point?
I've been saying that for years, Tim.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's no
trade secrets
longer
are no
plan
longer
B.
plan B. It's
That's
that's my
amazing.
trademark.
Did you trademark that?
We talked about it. I can't remember if we pulled the trigger, but
I think.
at least a superscript TM.
Yeah. That's funny. That's a little bit of a flashback. It's a couple years
It
ago,
is.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been years.
What what else should we know, or what else should we sort of be thinking about with respect to AI copyright trade secrets? Any any parting thoughts?
Well, the parting thought or the interesting question is, what if you used an AI to actually write a book for you. Because again, it's an interesting use of the technology, and you could certainly prompt your way to getting a book prepared. Whether it would sell or not is a whole nother question, but
Right.
it runs into that problem of the AI cannot be a copyright creator, and
Right.
AI is not an artist. And also, you are not the writer of the book because all you did was enter, a short prompt. So I think we're going to find a lot of interesting intersections between trade secret law, copyright, and patents as they relate to AI. Because AI is going to come up with some cool, valuable stuff,
Right.
and it's an interesting open question of how do you protect that.
Yeah. And just riffing on that, I would say, yeah, this notion that once the AIs um, can really truly become, prolific inventors, meaning, you know, uh, not just kind of like, you and I understand that, like, not just infer the obvious little innovation, right? Piecing together stuff and, um, stepping forward, but like brand new crazy stuff, right? And, depends on who you listen to, but like that may not be that far off where AI is going to just be a better inventor than humans. In fact, in some ways, we may be there right now.
Yeah, that's right. And we've talked about a lot of the biological models being used to predict like the 3D structure of proteins. AI is much better at it than even the best person. And that information is valuable. So you get in this strange space where the AI does something that's super valuable that couldn't be done by humans. And whoever came up with it needs to be able to protect it because you don't want to go through the time and effort to release a commercial product and have it be copied the next day. That's the whole
Right.
point of IP law fundamentally. So, but then you run against the brick wall of, AI cannot be an artist or a patentable inventor. So the AI and IP community are going to have to wrestle with all these great questions. Well, we're already wrestling, but
It's
it's going to
it's
continue for a
happening.
while, and it'll
Yeah.
lead to some interesting new regulations or IP laws to deal with this unusual situation that we've never had to face in human history.
100%. Yeah, it's like happening right in front of us, right? It's
That's
like
right.
super real time. I'm just like, yeah, so excited to see. I mean, because it's so multidimensional, because like, uh, the law's going to have to change, or else, you
That's right.
know, it it's a trade secret world, like
Well, and like
full stop.
and IP law has been around for a couple hundred years now, and it always focused on rewarding people for doing valuable things
Yep.
and providing protection for those people. And it never envisioned, because it never had to, that
Right.
AI would come along 200 years later. So it
Exactly.
really is a whole new world, and a lot of very intellectually interesting questions are coming up.
All right, man. Uh, Almost to 20. Good episode, Chris. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Okay, we'll
All
talk
right.
soon. Thanks, Tim.
Cheers. Later.